So, the internet is buzzing about Edward and Sophie and their peppercorn rent that they pay on their mansion Bagshot Park, which is this thing here. 120 rooms, you guys. 120 rooms that Edward and Sophie live in called Bagshot Park. And it's come under scrutiny because of Andrew, of course. And they're saying Edward has a peppercorn rent on this sorry property, or Surrey property, I should say, Bagshot Park. 120 rooms compared to this one for Andrew, which I think had 30 rooms. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Bagshot Park leaves Andrew's place in the dust, and Andrew's place was or is seen as this illustrious piece of real estate, you guys. So it turns out that both of these brothers were paying a peppercorn rent to the Crown Estate, which means a peppercorn is like this tiny little thing. So it's like from zero to maybe, $100 a month, if that. I mean, it seems that it's a euphemism. Peppercorn rent is a euphemism for rent free. Right. And all of this has come to light because of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's scandal, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal that cost Andrew his Prince title and his Duke of York title, and has caused his brother to kick him out of this royal lodge, and he has to go live somewhere in Sandringham on his brother's dime. And he is basically thrown out of the royal family. But this guy Edward is his quiet brother, under the radar, totally silent. Edward has very little to say, if you have noticed. I mean, recently he's been, I think, doing more royal engagements, or perhaps getting more attention because of the dearth of other more interesting or senior royals, as the case may be. There's nobody else to talk about. They talk about Edward, and they may drop a story that he's in Africa or whatever. But Edward himself strikes me as very, very reserved, a man of a few words, if you will. And so you don't really get to know a lot about him and Sophie. And Bagshot Park certainly has not been on anybody's radar until, recently, where, they're doing more sort of public facing royal engagement since Harry and Meghan left. So every now and then in the press, you'd hear something about Bagshot Park, but you're still not really registering what is Bagshot Park, where is Bagshot Park. You don't really care until the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor scandal, and how he was paying a peppercorn rent for this 30-room mansion, which they have asked him to vacate on account of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And then now it's just putting them all in the spotlight. So now Prince Edward, who has not done anything that Andrew has done, at least not that we know of, now his mansion is being put on the spotlight. And God only knows where this all will end up. It's a very treacherous time, I think, for the royals. They need to watch out. This whole thing could easily, just slowly but surely, with a gradual crescendo, implode. This whole royal family thing could implode. Now, look, there are royal families all over Europe. right? It's not like I'm saying that the royal family would cease to exist completely because the other royal families in Europe, they're very, very discreet, very quiet. They and very streamlined as well. I think the British royal family is the most visible in the world. It is the most respected and regarded of all the European monarchies, the most active of all the European monarchies. And I think that that's potentially going to change where they become just like, all the other monarchies. They exist, but they totally lack power and, they're kind of obscure and nobody really cares. And that just hasn't been the story of the House of Windsor. I mean, they have always been very glamorous, very visible, very active, very respected. But I think since Prince Elizabeth's death, and now with King Charles's reign, and soon he's going to be gone, and you're going to have William on the throne, this thing is going down the tubes. It's going downhill. And all of the hanger on royals also need to watch out. Even if Edward doesn't lose his mansion, for example, public pressure could mount that force them to pay a significant amount for a 120 room house. You pay a peppercorn a peppercorn rent. And what were they charging Harry and Meghan for Frogmore Cottage? I think Frogmore Cottage, I mean, did it even have 8 bedrooms? It probably had somewhere between 5 and 8 bedrooms. You have to figure Bagshot Park, Edward's Place, has at least 30 bedrooms in a 120 room mansion. Insane. This is an insane property. I mean, my goodness, that's a huge property, 120 rooms, right? Harry and Meghan, as I said, if they had 8 bedrooms, it was a lot. How much were they paying in rent? I know they paid a couple of million. They were forced to pay to renovate it because the British people were up in arms about the
When you
idea of
consider
Meghan
the
living
big
on the
stink
taxpayers' dime.
that the press,
So
the UK
Harry and
press,
Meghan paid
and
over two
members
million,
of
I
the
think,
UK
to
society
renovate Frogmore
made
Cottage.
about
I'm not
Meghan
privy
living in
to how
Frogmore
much they were
Cottage,
paying in
and
rent, but I
you
don't
know,
think it was a
etc.
peppercorn rent.
And
Do
Charles saying they
correct
don't
me
have
if
any
I'm
money
wrong.
for Meghan and this, that, and the third. You have to appreciate, the double standard here and the triple standard that was in place. And they were all complicit in it, because you see, like, one of the last appearances of the Sussexes with the royal family, and Edward was so attentively talking with Meghan. But I mean, these people didn't really care. I mean, none of them care. They're all in on the joke. They're in on it. They're all, winking at each other. I mean, I don't want to say they're robbing the public, but they are. But they were successful in making it look like it was Meghan who was robbing the public.